Good morning everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those who don't know me, my name is Rudy Venter and I'm primarily a landscape photographer from South Africa. This morning I'm trying to catch a sunrise in the foothills of the mountains in the Karoo, very arid semi-desert part of South Africa. Now we don't often get nice clouds in the sky. This morning we've got a few clouds, so with a bit of luck that'll produce some reasonable usable images. Let's see what we can capture. Again, thanks for joining me. The clouds right on the horizon are now starting to get some light from underneath, which is definitely a good sign. This is at 200 millimeters, so it's still actually quite far away. I'm really hoping the closer bank will give me a similar light display. And there are also some clouds, very light fluffy clouds, wispy clouds I should say, right above me as well. So with a bit of luck they'll also light up. It's interesting how the sky, after we had the pink and the purples, it's now turning very warm. We've gone from yellow to almost orange, and there's a bit of fog on the horizon that's also now getting a bit of light, a bit of color to it. So it's kind of hiding the mountain. The mountain is fading into the distance, but it's actually quite beautiful. 1/50th of a second, f14, ISO 100. And I'm overexposing by a third of the stop because the scene is the metering on the camera actually underexposes slightly. I've noticed that with the Sonys. Still running my normal 2-second delay on the shutter release just to prevent vibration. Here we have the image as captured. What I like about it are the layers, the dark foreground, the trees in the foreground, then just the silhouette of the mountain. And then above that we've got the orange and yellows coming through from the sun on the horizon, or just below the horizon with a layer of very light clouds. And then the very top layer is the darker clouds with the bottoms of the clouds being slightly lit up, a pink orangey color. I think overall quite a pleasant, atmospheric, soft pastel colored image. Glad I captured it. Well, here we have the slightly more wide angle view of the distant mountains with the sun rising just to the left of them. This is 70 millimeters, but it is on a crop sensor, so it is times 1.6. But yes, the colors are changing. We've gone through deep reds to oranges, now turning into yellows. I'm just hoping that the higher clouds will catch some light underneath as soon as the sun rises above the horizon, or just almost above the horizon, which is another 15 to 20 minutes I think at the moment. Two other compositions lined up for wide angle shots now. I'm just waiting for the light to change, for the sky to light up, specifically for the clouds to light up. Here's the final image that I captured on the telephoto lens with the mountains in the distance. My final composition, I actually turned slightly to the left to capture the slope coming in from the left-hand side in the foreground with the tiny row of trees on it. I thought that added some interest. What I particularly like here are the colors, the beautiful oranges and reddish colors, plus of course the very nice clouds we have, especially towards the top. And we still have the silhouette of the mountain. So again, layers, colors and texture in the sky makes this image worthwhile. Not often that we get a sunrise like this, so I'm really happy to capture this. This is the first wide angle image that I managed to capture this morning. What really got my attention, or what I really saw that I liked, were the huge rocks, the line of rocks on the left hand side with the orangey lichen on them. And then of course the clouds, with the rocks pointing towards the sunrise, and the clouds also from the left hand top, the pinkish clouds and the blue lines of sky, all pointing towards what is basically more the middle of the composition, where the sun will actually rise. I particularly like the colors of the clouds. With a bit of light from beneath, they're now turning a pinkish color. The right hand side of the image is not that interesting, and maybe ultimately, if I do consider this for printing, I might end up cropping that and making it more of a square image. But overall, I'm quite happy with the results. We now have a bit more light. So I've moved slightly to the left, basically to the left of the huge rock in the previous photo. The sky is lighting up nicely. What I like about this composition is the cross. We basically have a leading line from bottom left to top right, and then from bottom right to top left that goes from the rocks into the cloud formations, basically making a cross just underneath where the sun is going to rise. Overall, the sky is lighting up nicely, and I'm enjoying this. I was just hoping for slightly more clouds towards the top. I might try in post-production, maybe cropping the top off, the very top off the sky in this particular image. Here is a slightly cropped version. I ended up cropping a bit of the top and the bottom, changing the format slightly. Also, the sky is now getting quite bright towards the center of the image with lots of yellows and orange. I really like the very rugged foreground with the big rocks, interesting colors with some lichen on them. Plus, of course, I have retained the cross as in the previous image, but it's now less pronounced. There's now more focus, I think, on the foreground and the particular very interesting rocks. And of course, ultimately the highlight of the image would still be the sun just below the horizon, or actually slightly above the horizon at this point. Overall, I'm quite happy with this image, and I can't wait to print it out nice and large so that I can put it on the wall. Ultimately, that's the best way to see if the image works or not. Well, the color is now mostly faded as the sun is rising, but there's still some nice pastel colors on the horizon. So I'm going to try and capture that. I'm shooting at 200 millimeters at the moment, and I think that'll make for a very nice soft image. I might play around with the dehaze slider a bit in Lightroom to maybe even add some more haze and not dehaze. But yes, the colors are still relatively nice, but the main light show is now over. Well, there are a couple of clouds, little fluffy clouds towards the right of the mountains, above the mountains, that are now turning yellow with a hint of orange. So I've changed my point of view slightly. I've moved around so that I can get them into the composition as well. And in front here I've got a rocky ridge with a couple of very twisted shrubs on it. I think they're very exposed to the wind, so I'm going to try and see if I can get a worthwhile composition here. 1/200th of a second, f9 ISO 100. When I took this image, I was actually basically finished with a sunrise, but I noticed that there was some really nice color in the sky in the distance. So I put on a slightly longer 200mm lens and managed to capture this image. I think the colors are actually beautiful, golden yellow, and the very interesting little fluffy clouds about halfway up the horizon, and then the distant mountains, also great. The anchor point in the front, the very dark layer with the bushes, gnarly bushes that are sticking out slightly higher up in the sky. Nice image, I think, as a extra, as a bonus. Not really planned, but you should never stop shooting till there's really nothing else to shoot, and even then keep the camera ready. I think overall this might not be the best capture of the day, but it's definitely usable. Well, I think that's it for this morning. The sky is changing very rapidly now, and it's not a change in the right direction for a photographer. But I think it was worthwhile. The sunrise was quite nice. I wasn't quite prepared with the right compositions. I'm not in the right area for a sunrise, for wide angle work anyway. I did quite enjoy the long lens, the 200mm shots that I got. I think there's something usable there with the distant mountains. And yes, it was quite disappointing with the moon, but that wasn't planned. Just when I got here this morning, I noticed that the moon is actually quite beautiful. Thanks for watching again. I much appreciate it. If you do like what you see, if you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. It helps with the YouTube algorithms. And subscribe if you haven't done so already to my channel. I try and bring out one video a week at least. If you're interested in any prints or merchandise, have a look below at the links in the description, or contact me direct for limited edition prints of all the very best images. Hope to see you again in the next video. Thanks for joining. Have a great day and stay safe. Cheerio! Well, good morning everyone. Welcome back to my channel. For those who don't know me, my name is Rudy Venter and I'm a landscape photographer from South Africa. This morning I am going to try and capture the sunrise here in the Karoo region of South Africa. We've got a couple of clouds, as you can see, and they're starting to light up. I'm also going to look for a nice tree. There are lots of very nice shepherd's trees around here, maybe some rock formations. But yes, the sun is starting to rise. I better move on. I'm so glad you are here. Please, if you like what you see, give me a thumbs up. Much appreciated. Let's go image hunting. Well, I have found my first composition of the morning. It's still very dark. Even with this camera on ISO 6400, the video is still a bit dark. But as you can see, I've got a LED headlight with me, so I'm planning on some light painting anyway. So I'll just show you what I've got here. In the foreground, I've got some rock formation that leads into the image. And then on the left hand top, there's a very prominent shepherd's tree, beautiful tree, that I'm going to use as an anchor point. And then yes, looks like we might have a very nice sunrise, or at least a decent sunrise. You see there's some clouds up there already starting to change color. And on the right hand side there's a euphorbia and some other bushes as well, with another rock more towards the middle. Overall, I think the composition can work, especially if the sky lights up nicely. I must just make sure that I don't, first of all, clip the highlights, and secondly, that I don't cut off the shepherd's tree on the left hand side. It's quite close to the top of the image. Well, you see it in 16:9 at the moment for the video. In the photo it'll be slightly better. But let's see if we can make this work. We're waiting for the light.
Here we have the image I managed to capture. As you can see, the light painting did actually work quite well with the foreground. It's light enough. I ended up not shooting multiple exposures. The leading line bottom left towards the center works well with the rock. And so does the leading line on the other side. They capture your eye and they force you towards the middle of the image where we've got some color in the sky. The tree that was top left hand, unfortunately, was too far for light painting. My light wasn't powerful enough. So it was just a very dark blob. So I ended up cropping it out in this image. But overall, I'm quite happy with the almost fairy tale-like image. I love the very beautiful pink color in the sky.
I've changed the composition slightly now. As you can see, I move slightly towards the right to try and get the shepherd's tree more into the image. And then also on the other hand, try and get a bit more of the clouds that are more towards the left into the image. I'm still waiting for some more color in the sky, but it looks like there might be some clouds right on the horizon. So I might have to wait a while longer. Maybe there is a gap that'll come through. Composition similar to the previous shot. Rocks in the foreground, you might just be able to see them. You probably can't see them, it's still too dark. I'm trying to light them up. Then the shepherd's tree on the left hand side, and another rock almost in the middle with some euphorbias behind it. And then yes, hopefully the clouds, that'll light up a bit. I'm going to try and maybe move even slightly further right and raise the camera slightly, because at the moment the bottom end of the shepherd's tree is a bit hidden behind some euphorbias here in the foreground. So I'm going to just raise it slightly and see if that'll make a difference.
This is the image I managed to capture with a camera lowish, about half a meter above the ground, and move slightly to the right compared to the previous composition. What I do like about it, some interesting clouds in the sky, a bit of color, not much. And then what I do not like about it is the tree is actually a bit hidden. I've lost quite a bit of the rock in the foreground, and the colors seem a bit flat. I could boost the colors a bit, but overall the image just seems a bit flat. I need more foreground interest. I think that is the main problem. I should have included more of the rock in the foreground, but then I would have lost some of the sky, unfortunately.
Well, here's the composition with the camera raised slightly, probably by about it's over half a meter. I'm getting a bit more of the horizon in, and I think also more of the trunk of the shepherd's tree, but unfortunately in the process, of course, I've lost some of the foreground rocks. So there's still some rocks in, but the nice leading line that I had is no longer there. Of course, I can change the composition slightly, maybe more like this, drop it a bit more, because those high clouds are not that interesting, and then maybe I'll get some more of the foreground interest. I'm going to have to exposure bracket this, because the foreground is still very dark as the sky lights up. So let me just see if I can capture it like this. Maybe there's an image in here somewhere.
Here is the image with the camera raised slightly. I think it does work a bit better in terms of including more foreground, which give the image a bit of depth. It's not as flat. I would have liked the rock in the foreground, the leading line, to start slightly more to the left towards the corner of the image. And that's, as you'll see, I've actually tried that in my next attempt. But overall, yes, the sky is, there's a bit of interest in the sky, not enough color. At this point, there was the sun was just trying to light up or to break through from behind a cloud on the horizon. But as you'll see in the next image, I think the final one was the best one. Fortunately, perseverance helped in the end.
Well, here's my third attempt at this composition. Drop the camera slightly, or the angle of the camera, it's now almost level with the horizon, to try and get some more foreground. And I think this is what I'm starting to like. You can see the foreground, the leading line is there. The shepherd's tree is there. I've got the other rock over there towards the right hand side. All I need now is for the sky to light up. You won't actually see it in this on this camera maybe, but there is a bit of color in the sky. I just wish the rock in the front, in the foreground, was actually slightly more to the left, and I will maybe move again and see if I can change that, but I think in the process I'm going to lose the beautiful clouds.
Here's my final attempt at that composition, and as you can see, firstly I did move the camera slightly further to the right, as I was thinking of doing it. Plus I waited a little while just for the clouds to light up, and they did light up briefly. As you'll see now, we not only have the clouds with the orange on the right hand side, but also the orangey, almost reddish cloud just above the tree. And I like the lines of the clouds also form. They actually point towards the tree from the right hand side, and then the rock formation in the bottom left that leads your eye into the sky, to the horizon, up to the clouds. Overall, I'm quite happy with this image. I think this is the best I could do in that particular location. So yes, perseverance paid off, and I managed to capture an image that I'm happy with. Never give up after the first attempt.
And while I'm looking at the sunrise, this is happening behind me. Some beautiful colors in the sky, plus of course this rather nice shepherd's tree makes for a nice composition. I just need to maybe move slightly to the right to get the tree maybe slightly more off center and get those nice leading lines in the clouds running from top left hand corner into the tree. But yes, always a surprise behind you. Yes, I quite like this composition. The clouds form nice leading lines from the left hand side, all pointing towards the tree, and there's still a bit of color in the cloud, even though it's fading now. And then of course the tree, very interesting, the shepherd's tree, it's got beautiful bark. It's quite light in color, so I'm hoping I can bring that out in post-processing. But I just caught this in time, because as you can see from the video clip a few minutes ago, the color is now mostly gone, but it was nice while it lasted.
Here I'm showing you the two images that I managed to capture. First of all, the image where there was still quite a bit of color in the sky. This was shot at 20 millimeters, and I specifically like the leading lines that the colors in the sky, the clouds form, that kind of points towards the tree. The yellowish orange cloud behind the tree is also nice, just above the mountains. I would have liked a tiny bit more foreground interest, but that wouldn't have been that easy. The second version of the image, I actually zoomed into about 26 millimeters. The colors in the sky have changed. The leading lines are still there, but some of the clouds have broken up a bit. I've also moved slightly towards the right. I'm not sure which one of these two I actually prefer. I think the first one, the clouds are nicer, but maybe the slightly tighter shot here with a longer lens, and the second one helps. I think the composition is better in the second one, but the clouds were better in the first one, so I wish I could have combined them. But the secret here is never forget to look behind you when you're shooting a sunrise or a sunset. Often the magic is happening behind you while you're patiently waiting for something to happen in front of you.
Here you can see a composition with the mountains in the distance. While I'm shooting the wide angle, I'm also having a look here at the telephoto, shooting at 200 millimeters in a crop sensor here. ISO 100 f11, and it's going to be about a 3.2 second exposure. The colors are quite nice, purple pinkish colors, but not the reds that I was expecting. Slightly towards the left, the sky is lighting up a bit where the sun will actually rise, but over there's no real interest in the background. The mountains are hidden by a hill quite close by, and it's not such an interesting hill. But I think for now this photo is also quite interesting, specifically with the colors and the layers, the cloud layers and the foreground layers. This image is towards where the sun will rise in a few minutes. Nothing really interesting in the image other than some nice colors. So not a portfolio shot, but a beautiful sky anyway. If nothing else, it'll end up in one of the Instagram sunrise groups. They'll probably enjoy it, but I don't think I'm going to end up putting this in my portfolio.
After the nice surprise with the beautiful colors behind me during the sunrise, I also took the drone up and took a few images, specifically towards the mountains in the distance. The first image here, you can see some beautiful clouds over the mountains, some light on the mountains themselves. And then, of course, in the foreground, there's a tree, a shepherd's tree. I think quite beautiful. The second image, I flew about 1,000 meters towards the mountain. Here you can actually see the mountain, just the top catching light. Unfortunately, the sky was not so colorful anymore, but still a pretty beautiful shot, and not something a photo would have been able to take without the use of a drone. So I love my drone. Here's a close-up of another tree on the ridge. I managed to fly up there, didn't climb up there, or I was anxious to get the image of the tree with some beautiful clouds behind. I knew by the time I got to the tree, the clouds would have been gone. And in effect, they were almost gone. But I still think this is quite a usable image. And that specific tree, you might recognize, it's featured before in one of my videos. I really like it.
Well, everyone, I think that's it for this morning. Had a relatively nice light show towards the sunrise. Not as many clouds as I wanted. Now we've got lots of clouds, but it's too late. But there were some quite nice colors in the sky. And then also behind me, away from the sunrise, there were also some nice colors. I think there are one or two images there that might work. The images I captured with a long lens at 200 millimeters. Nice colors, nice layers, but not much detail or foreground interest, but I think they will make nice atmospheric images. Also towards the end, when the color in the sky was mostly gone, I did try a couple of shots of the shepherd's tree with a drone. I wanted to get it from a slightly higher perspective, looking slightly down from about 4 meters high, and I think they're going to be quite okay. By now you've probably seen them, but I think I need to make use of the drone maybe more in some cases, because it's very convenient to move it around and get slightly higher perspective than I can get with a camera and the tripod. Anyway, thanks for watching, much appreciated. If you like what you saw, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that already. If you're interested in any prints or to use some of my images, please contact me direct. All the very best images, I normally do limited run prints, 25 prints only, and they'll be serialized and signed by me. For any other merchandise, have a look below in the description. Visit my Redbubble site, where you can buy anything from a coffee mug to a t-shirt with the images on. If you've seen any images in the videos that aren't there, please let me know. I don't upload all the images there, only a select few. Thanks for watching, much appreciated. Hope to see you in the next video. I try and release them on a Sunday evening on a weekly basis. Hope to see you again. Have a great day. Keep well and keep safe. Cheerio. Well, good morning everyone. I hope you can see me, it's still quite dark. Today I'm here in the foothills of the Groot River mountain again in the Karoo, hoping for a sunrise. Well, it started off with a good prediction for some clouds, and then when I got up this morning before there was any light, I had a look and there was not a single cloud in sight, and then some clouds came and I packed the car and then the clouds went away again. But here I am and there are a few clouds forming. So yes, thanks for joining me, really appreciate it. Let's see if I can capture anything. Sunrise is in about 20 to 25 minutes. So with a bit of luck, these clouds that I can see at the moment will stick around. As you can see, there are a few clouds on the horizon towards the east. It's towards the east. The sun is going to rise somewhere around there. And then there's some clouds stretching around towards the south, all the way around. And then yes, with a bit of luck, we will find some nice light on towards the west as well. There's some haze there and a couple of clouds, and then yes, we've got half a moon up there, but it's still too high to really be useful, I think, at this point. But yes, so far so good. At least it's not a totally clear sky. There's always hope. Well, here I have what I hope is going to be the first composition. It's a bit dark, I don't know how much you can see, but what I have is diagonally from the bottom right towards the middle of the image, there's a bank of rocks sticking out, which forms a nice leading line. And then just to the left of that, halfway through the image, about to the left hand side, in the middle of the image I should say, there's a flowering cactus, actually quite beautiful. And then of course some bushes in the background. The one on the right hand side is a bit distracting. I might change the focal length a bit from the 17mm I'm at the moment to try and get rid of that. Then hopefully the clouds at the back will light up. We can live in hope. We've got another 15 minutes or so, 10 to 15 minutes before they'll light up, if they do light up. Now this is, I think, is the composition that I like. But now unfortunately I see the cactus in front is nice, but there's a darker bush behind it that is interfering, and there's no fog or anything, so I can't get any separation this morning. Unfortunately, again, I might have to recompose, maybe move slightly to the left. I'll see to try and just get just the clouds behind the cactus and not that bush in the distance. Well, I am struggling a bit to find a composition this morning. The one that I really liked, there's unfortunately a bush or two bushes in the background. There are basically two angles I can approach it from, but either one of those angles I end up with a very ugly bush in the background that kind of destroys the composition. So I think I might have to move around a bit more, maybe go slightly further to see if there's something I can use there. Let me just show you where I am at the moment. See, in the foreground is my setup. There's the camera and then the little quite beautiful cactus in front of it that's flowering. And then the rocks I was going to use, I was hoping to use these rocks, but then that bush in the background you can see now in the middle of the image is the one that causes trouble. And if I go further this way around, I end up with another bush in the background. As you can see, it creeps into the image top right hand corner. So I'm not sure what I can do about that. So far no color in the clouds, but I still have a few minutes, I think. So let me move around a bit and see if I can find maybe a different composition that doesn't include these bushes. It's unfortunate. I really like this cactus, and if there's some nice light, I might end up shooting it with reflected light from the sky, from the completely opposite side. There is a nice tree that can also maybe use in the composition, as you can see over there, shepherd's tree. So with a bit of luck, I could end up using that. I'll just have to move the rest of my equipment over there. Well, here's another composition that might work, but now in this case I'm going to lose the clouds. I just can't win this morning. I've got another small cactus, bottom left hand, just behind it a nice rock with a dark patch of lichen and a couple of lines of quartz running through it, and then my original bunch of cactus is just behind that rock, but unfortunately slightly too far behind to be useful. Maybe if I raise the camera a bit and if there's no cloud in the sky, get rid of some of the cloud. And then just to the right of it, there's a tiny little bush with yellow flowers. Almost looks like a little bonsai tree. So this composition might work, but with some side light, because that's what I'm going to get in this case. And since it looks like the clouds are not going to light up, maybe side light is all I'm going to have this morning. Well, here's another option that might work. Now I just have the rocks leading from bottom left into the image, and then the cactus in the foreground and one further in the background, and then a few clouds in the background that are just starting to light up. So this could be an option. I'm going to end up shooting, I think, at least 4 different compositions here this morning, and then I think I'll have to decide in post-processing which one works. I hope there's at least one that works. With the clouds that are starting to light up, I might end up with my initial composition. At least you can see the clouds in this image. It's just unfortunate that we have those 2 bushes. The one on the right hand side I can get rid of by just zooming in a bit, but the one on behind the cactus, that's not going to be that easy. But I might end up with something like this. Let me just go a bit brighter so that you can see. Maybe see, it's still quite dark. But yes, we've got this beautiful rock formation on the right hand side leading up to the cactus, and then unfortunately we have that nasty bush in the background. But as you can see, there's a bit of light in the sky. Now I'm not sure if the big cloud's going to light up. The bottom of it is already lit up, so let me quickly take a shot here while I can, while there's something to take. Here comes the sun, just popped over the horizon. So at least the horizon is clear, but the sun is going to be a problem. So I think I'm going to try and shoot from the other side using some side lighting and not directly into the sun, because with the sun that bright, that's not ideal. Now that the sun is just above the horizon, I think my initial composition is not going to work. There was simply not enough interest in the sky. The clouds didn't light up, but there's still a chance of an image this way, making use of that tree and some clouds in the background. At least the sky has a bit of interest, and then it's closer up in the foreground we have this cactus, and then between the cactus and the tree we've got that line of rocks sticking out. So I'm just hoping that I think as the sun rises a bit higher, it'll enter some cloud again as well. There's a layer of cloud just above the horizon, so hopefully it'll filter it out a bit so it's not as harsh, because it's already starting to get quite harsh. Unfortunately, this time of the year our dawn or dusk, sunset, sunrise periods are very short. They don't really last long. You only have maybe 10 minutes if you're lucky. I've seen some sunrises last 2 or 3 minutes. So you've got to move. So I think the initial sunrise is gone, but there's still a composition to be had here between the cactus and the tree. Actually, an aloe and a cactus and rocks and a tree, I should say. Thinking something along these lines. I'm going to just have to wait a bit for the sun to rise slightly higher so that the cactus on the bottom left hand side of the image is lit up a bit, and then the tree in the background that's already starting to catch some light. So that might just work. There are also clouds on the horizon, I should say, towards the southwest. So there's also a chance that they might catch a little bit of light. But I don't have to bargain. I'm not going to bargain on that. But let's see if I can make an image out of this. Well, we'll have to see in post-processing, but I think my final composition is the one I like the most. Beautiful leading line from bottom left of these rocks with a white quartz on them and a bit of lichen as well, leading up to the cactus, the flowering cactus, right hand middle of the image, and then just behind that the beautiful shepherd's tree. And then on the left hand side I have that gnarly bush just to anchor that and balance the image a bit, with a bit of cloud above it. I think final one is the best one, and now I just need to shoot it so that it's usable. Okay, first image, hand in front. To start the sequence, I'm shooting this at 24 millimeters, 0.4 seconds, f14 ISO 100, which is the calculated exposure. Nice soft light and everything. Bit of color in the sky, and then I'm going to shoot at -1, which is a fifth of a second. And then a final one -2, and here comes the sun again, which is 1/10 of a second now. But at least there's some nice interest in the sky. I think quite usable. But the light is going to get harsh any minute now. One more sequence. I do have myself in the image, my shadow is in the image. I'll have to either crop that out or get rid of it in post-processing. I might actually change the composition slightly. Might be worthwhile changing the composition slightly, like that. Now my leading line is maybe slightly too horizontal for my liking, but it does take you from bottom left to middle right, up to the tree, and then the horizon across to the gnarly bush. Just waiting for the light to change. It's a bit harsh at the moment. There's a cloud in between. Let me quickly shoot it like this. Let me quickly shoot it. Okay, no exposure compensation, 0.4 seconds, f14 ISO 100, and then one stop under, which is a fifth of a second, and then -2 stops, which I probably won't need, but just in case, which is a tenth of a second, before the light changes again. The light changes every few seconds at the moment. Well, I suppose that's a wrap, as they say. Thanks for sticking around so long. I hope you enjoyed the video. Sunrise didn't really happen, but there was still some nice fluffy clouds in the sky. I got some good light, a whole bunch of compositions as you saw. By now you would have seen if any of them worked. But thanks for watching. If you want more information on my images, you can look in the description below where you can purchase them. I do limited edition prints. And yes, hope to see you in the next adventure. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Much appreciate likes and subscribes. Have a great day. Have a great week. Till next time, keep safe. Cheerio.
morning everyone, thanks for joining me on another Karoo photography photo trip. I'm heading out to take some photos of shepherd's trees this morning in one of my favorite spots. There are a few clouds in the sky, so I'm hoping for a bit of color. Let's see what we can produce today.
We're getting some slight color this morning in the clouds, better than nothing. My composition is pretty simple: a shepherd's tree in the foreground, another smaller one in the background, with some mountains in the distance. I think I'll take a wide shot first, and then I will see if I can get a better composition by cropping it a bit. Yes, I like this slightly better. It's still very dark, so I'm not really getting anything in the foreground. I might end up doing a couple of bracketed exposures just to get enough light in the foreground. But yeah, the color is already fading in the sky, but I'm hoping as the sun rises over the horizon to get another flash of light. We often get a few minutes of extra light. Yes, I'm definitely going to have to exposure bracket this, maybe plus minus 2 stops. It's the exposure without any compensation. That's the exposure with plus 1 stop. And the exposure with plus 2 stops. And just to make sure the foreground is okay, I'm going to go up to plus 3 stops. The sky is blown out, but I will merge the images. And then just on the other side again to make sure, I think I'll go to minus 1 stop to try and capture absolutely the last bit of color in the sky.
Here's the file out of the camera, the raw file. You will notice that the foreground is quite dark, so is the tree, and the highlights are quite bright in the sky. So my first processed version, I lifted the foreground, the dark foreground, dropped the highlights in the background, and cropped it ever so slightly. This is better, but I'm still not happy with it. So what I decided to do is to lift the tree trunk a bit, because to the human eye it's actually quite a bit brighter than the photo. So in the final version you'll see I simply lifted the whites, brightened the shadows on the tree trunk, and I think it's a far more pleasing version. And a little bit of color in the sky, the clouds, it definitely helps.
Seems like we're not going to get any better light in the sky this morning, unfortunately. Maybe just a tiny bit of light on the horizon. Sometimes the light show lasts long. Today the light show maybe lasted 5 minutes. But hopefully there was an image in there worthwhile capturing. And while this is all happening, the mosquitoes are eating me. With the sun now almost above the horizon, the clouds did get a bit of extra light, which is great. I think I'm going to do another maybe 4-shot bracket here, just to make sure that I capture both the foreground and the highlights in the sky. It's minus 1 stop. That is just as metered. No compensation. Plus 1 stop to get the foreground. That is plus 2 stops. And just to make sure the full foreground is there, plus 3 stops. You could also do automatic exposure bracketing, but I actually prefer to set the compensation per shot. It actually works better for me. And we're now shooting right into the sun, just above the horizon, but I think I've got a reasonable composition here. I'll be doing another bracket shot. What I normally do for the first one of a bracket, I just put my hand or something in front of the lens. So when I look at the images, I know that's the start of a new bracket. So that's 0 exposure compensation. Then I'll be going up to +1 stop to get more detail in the foreground, +2 stops, and then finally on the plus side, +3 stops. Foreground is still pretty dark, but I should be able to lift the shadows a bit. And then on the other side I'll go to -1, okay, -1. Sun is in my eyes, I can't see what I'm doing. And I will go to -2, and finally, probably not necessary, but I'll go to -3 just to get any detail in the sun. You'll see, all you can actually see there is a tiny light spot where the sun is.
Here we have the raw file of the image just captured after I did the combining of the different exposures. I quite like it with the sun just peeking out, but the image is a bit flat, very low in contrast. So what I did, as you can see here in the developed version or the process version, I just upped the contrast slightly, and it definitely looks a bit better. Also dropped exposure a tiny bit. It was a bit too light for my liking.
This is the image I'm seeing on the drone. Not spectacular, but at least a bit of color in the sky. And it's a beautiful morning, other than for the mosquitoes. Well, it seems like the light show didn't last very long this morning. Maybe in total the clouds lit up for 5 to maybe 10 minutes. And then there was another small light show, short light show, just after the sun rose above the horizon. I managed to get 2 compositions, same tree, 2 compositions. One with the tree in the background to the left of it, underneath it, which I think is quite the classic shot. And then in the second composition, I actually tried to hide the tree in the background behind the main tree. I don't know how successful that was. The only way that could work is because the shepherd's tree's got a very light bark, very light colored trunk. So maybe that'll stand out compared to the dark background of the dark green tree in the background. But either way, interesting tree. Second time that I've shot this tree. The first time it was more a foggy sunrise with some clouds in the background, which you've probably seen in the previous video. But I'm relatively happy with this. And there are 1 or 2 other trees here that I just want to investigate this morning. So next time that I rush out here like this morning, I'm not going to have to run around. I can go straight to the trees. I've noticed 2 other trees here from the air that actually looks like they have potential. So I'm going to take a walk around. I do have a final composition here of the same tree, making use of the side light from the sun just peeking out behind a few broken clouds. I'm hoping that the trunk of the tree specifically would be the point of interest in this case, and the few little clouds in the background, the few layers of clouds, will just break up that ugly blue sky. 1/20th of a second, f13, 2-second timer. I just wish those clouds in the background had some more color, but yeah, we don't always get what we wish.
Here we have the final image of the tree. I actually quite like this composition. The bush in front, bottom left, with a white branch on it, actually points towards the tree, and the tree actually stands out quite nicely, I think, because of the white bark, and also the light on the left-hand side of the tree, the nice warm light coming from the sun that is just out of the frame in the top left-hand. I didn't do much to this image. I just lifted the shadows a tiny bit, dropped the highlights a bit, and tiny bit of extra saturation. Overall, I think I like this image the best of all the images this morning.
I didn't actually plan on coming out shooting this morning. The weather prediction said no chance of any clouds, so I was planning on doing some editing. But just before 5 o'clock, I looked out and I saw some interesting clouds, so I thought, well, make use of them while you can. So I rushed out here. Came straight to this specific tree because I've shot it in the past and I know it is interesting with sunrise. And I think I did manage to get 1 or 2 images that are probably worthwhile. At least it was worthwhile coming out here, and in spite of the mosquitoes, it was fun. I really appreciate you guys joining me. And I hope that you will like this video enough to give me a thumbs up. It helps with some of the algorithms, the way YouTube actually shows videos when you search for them. And also, if you subscribe to the channel, you'll see any future videos that I release. Got a few planned. I've been doing a bit of scouting over the last day or two, and there's a different area in the mountains that I want to shoot pretty soon. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Stay happy, stay healthy. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.
Anywhere you go, give it on. Anywhere you say, anywhere.
Morning everyone. As you can see, I'm here a bit earlier than normal. I managed to get away earlier than our normal curfew. We've got a 5 o'clock curfew at the moment due to COVID, but I slipped out a bit earlier trying to get here just in time for the sunrise. We do have a few clouds this morning, as you can see in the background, but unfortunately nothing spectacular. I think what I'll do is, because I don't have time to go and find one of my favorite trees, I'm going to just take the drone up for now and see if I can get at least 1 or 2 sunrise shots with maybe some of the mountains in the background lit up. Maybe the clouds will reflect a bit of light onto them. But yes, welcome back to my channel and thanks for watching. Here you can see what I'm seeing on the screen of the drone, the DJI Mavic 2 Pro. I've got about -1 stop of exposure compensation dialed in just to make sure that I don't overexpose the highlights. But yes, there's maybe a photo in there. I will show you afterwards what I managed to capture.
Here we have the images captured by the drone. Not much color on the clouds at this point, but what I do like are the different layers of mountains. There are at least 3 ridges going into the distance, with a tiny bit of fog between them as well. So I think this is quite an interesting image and worthwhile the effort to go and try and capture it. I just wish the clouds were lit up a bit.
While I'm standing here waiting for the color to change, the mosquitoes are having a feast. It's really amazing how they can breed and survive in these dry conditions. There's no standing water within a couple of kilometers, but still they are here. We do have a little bit of color in the sky now. I'm just sad that I couldn't get into position at a nice tree for some foreground interest. This curfew is really messing with us because it only gives you about 20 minutes to get into position from home. It's not very feasible, not very practical. But at least over the next month or 2, 3, the sunrise will be later. Maybe the curfew will change as well. We can hope. We can live in hope. And then we'll be able to capture the sunrises that we want. But it's a very pleasant morning out, other than the mosquitoes. So I'm going to go for a bit of a hike, just to explore a bit. I don't think after sunrise the light will really be spectacular. But I want to see if I can go find a few compositions in case I want to come back tomorrow morning or some other morning and I need to rush into position due to time constraints. Here you can see the composition that I'm looking at. You can hear the jackals in the background. I'm basically just looking at the mountains with a bit of light behind them. 1/20th of a second, f10 and ISO 100, no exposure compensation. And I think what I'll do is I'll also shoot it at slightly lower f-stop. I really don't need to go that high. Of course there's nothing in the foreground really that I need to keep in focus. 2-second delay on the shutter. Let's try and take a slightly darker image. I'm not going to bracket, do a HDR type of bracket, but minus 1.3 stops, just to make sure I capture absolutely everything in the highlights, especially the smaller highlights. As you see there where the main color is. Here is the image that I captured. I did crop it a bit, especially the dead area above the clouds. I didn't really like that. I did lift the shadows a bit. Other than that, I didn't have to do much. Interesting to see the different lines coming from the foreground, some trees, and then the roughly 25-kilometer distance with some fog in it, and then the featureless mountains, quite high mountains at the back, with the clouds with quite nice color. I think after this I'll go for a short hike just around the area to explore a bit and maybe try and find a composition or two that I can use in the future when I have better light. At least there are some clouds around this morning. It's not totally clear, so there could still be 1 or 2 usable compositions. In the distance, in the valley, there's a little bit of fog as well, and I think if we do get a bit of wind from the south, like we sometimes do, the clouds will roll in from the coast, so there's still hope for this morning. This is the final image that I captured of the sunrise. As you can see, the sun is now above that little hilltop, and the sky has turned golden yellow, very warm colors. Even the foreground has turned a bit yellow, and you can see some of the trees in the front, small trees. Not a spectacular photo, but I like it. It kind of shows what the day is going to be like, extremely hot. I'm going to go for my walk now with the sun up, just exploring to see if I can find a few more compositions for future reference. I think it's very important to go to the same area again and again, because as you get to know it, you see additional compositions. You often see the smaller compositions, not the huge wide vistas. And as you get to know the area, when the light is in a specific way, you know where to go. You know, okay, today that tree is going to work, or that rock formation is going to be spectacular with this light. So you don't waste time finding something, you can go straight to it. And often in a small area of a couple of 100 meters square, you will find that you can over time find lots and lots of beautiful compositions as the weather changes, as the seasons change. Time to pack up and go for the walk. Lots of mosquitoes still around, so I should keep the car doors closed. I don't want to take these mosquitoes home. If they stay here, they only bother me in the morning. If I take them home, they bother me all the time. As you can see, there's still a few clouds about, so I'm going to try and make one or two images here, play with a couple of different compositions. I think initially just I like taking just the environment shot, not for portfolio use, but to give me a reference in the future that, you know, this is what the tree looks like, this is what the background looks like. Maybe when the sun is in this position or the clouds are like that, this will work. So I'm just going to take an image like this, 1/50th of a second, f10, ISO 100, 2-second delay on the shutter release to try and keep the shake away. What a beautiful little tree with some mountains in the background. Unfortunately, also some buildings in the background. You see on the left hand side, those white buildings. That is actually a hotel, I believe. So I'll try and get an angle that doesn't include the hotel. With the soft light at the moment, it's actually quite nice. Unfortunately, there's no direct light on the tree trunk. These white tree trunks of the shepherd trees are quite spectacular. Often when it's a bit wet, when there's maybe a bit of rain around, or as we often get your fog, those tree trunks will be even whiter than they are at the moment. So on this image, I might in post-processing lift the highlights slightly on the tree trunk, just to make it stand out a bit more. 1/40th of a second, f10, ISO 100. I am quite happy with this given the conditions. Just shows you, never give up. When I left the vehicle, I was thinking I'll probably not even take the camera out, and I walked straight to this tree, which I haven't seen before, by the way. The background is not perfect. The mountains are fine, but what I do not like are there's some buildings in the distance, a farmhouse. Off to the left there's a hotel, and off to the right in the far distance is actually a town, a tiny little town. As the sun is rising, it's actually going behind cloud cover, and the clouds have actually moved in. Strangely enough, they predicted it for daybreak, for sunrise, the clouds, but the clouds are a bit late. But I'm not complaining. At least they're giving me some soft light this morning, and soft light is better than harsh light, even though it's not spectacular. I think eventually I need to work this tree from all sides. At the moment there's a bit of a low-lying area behind it, which is fine. In the other direction there's a mountain. At my back at the moment there's a mountain. So I think if we have fog moving in, there will be a couple of nice compositions from the other side, because there are also some trees with spectacular flowers in spring. It's called a speckboom, and it's quite an interesting plant. Apparently it's one of the plants that produces the most oxygen, converts carbon dioxide into oxygen, and extracts carbon from the atmosphere. So that in these current times with global warming and all that, this is quite important. Not so much fun at the moment. I see the mosquitoes have followed me. You might see some of them buzzing around the camera. So either time to move on or get the drone to hover over my head. That is quite effective.
Here is the image that I managed to capture. I'm happy with the image. The composition I quite like. You've got the root in the front that leads into the tree, and then the tree splits up, left hand going, the larger section going to the larger cloud, and the right hand crosses the horizon with a kink into the open space. The light was actually quite nice, the side light from the sun just peeking out below the clouds. It lit up the tree trunk quite nicely. The only processing I did, as you'll see in the final version, is I lifted the highlights in the trunk a tiny little bit, same on the ground, and then I also got rid of the one or two buildings in the background, just cloned them out.
think I might have found another composition here. With the sun behind the clouds, there's some quite interesting light play in the clouds, and with the tree in the foreground, just enough separation with a small little tree in the background. There might be something here that I can use. I'm just going to take a few images to see if there's anything as the light changes, because as we're talking the light is changing. I quite like the way the clouds are lit up at the moment, showing there's a lot of moisture in the air. Also on the horizon, you might not be able to see it on the video, but I'll show you later on the photo. Between us and the mountains in the distance, there's a slight layer of fog separating the foreground and the background. Could be quite spectacular. I just need to see if I can capture that the way I'm seeing it. It's not always easy. When you get home and you look at the photos and you think, that's not what I saw. Where's my beautiful image? 1/200th of a second, f8, ISO 100, and my normal 2-second delay on the shutter. I used to shoot with a remote release, but it was always a pain carting it around, and I always had the wrong one for the camera. So I'm only using the 2-second delay now, which is quite fine. It never causes any vibration, and the little 2-second delay between images, you get used to it.
Here we have the image I managed to capture. You'll see in the raw file that I'm showing you first that I had to underexpose by a substantial amount to ensure that I don't burn out any highlights in the sky, especially around the sun. This is the process version. You will notice that I lifted the shadows quite a bit, especially the foreground. The light was quite nice and soft and warmish on the tree trunk, which I really like. I'm not 100% happy with the composition, but I really wanted to include the horizon towards the right as well. You'll see in the distance the mountains, but in front of the mountains there's a bit of fog. So I could maybe consider cropping the right hand off a bit. I'll think about it, maybe have a look at it. But overall, I'm really happy with the image. I think it'll go nicely with my Karoo tree collection. I will also at some point have a look at maybe a black and white monochrome conversion, because I'm working on a coffee book table, specifically monochrome only. But I'm really happy with this image. The foreground could have been nicer, but I will be revisiting this tree. This is not the last time you'll see it.
Well, I think the morning wasn't a total waste. Between the slight sunrise, some colors, some interesting shapes in the clouds, and more importantly, the discovery of this little tree. Because not only is this tree beautiful, it's also in a position where it's got a drop towards the back. So if there's any kind of fog or cloud, it'll help with isolation towards the back. And in the other direction, maybe late afternoon, with the sun setting behind the tree, and we'll get some light on the mountains. I think that is definitely going to be spectacular. The mountains has a couple of smallish, but a couple of white cliffs that I know when the late afternoon or the sunset light catches it will probably light up quite nicely. I'll show that to you just now. So this tree is going to get marked on my map, and if nothing else, this tree alone makes the trip worthwhile this morning. Then, and of course, being with you, here with you, and also being in nature, birds, jackals, all kinds of things flying around. Spectacular. Thanks for joining me so far. Well, back at the car, ready to head home for breakfast. It was quite a nice morning out. Sunrise was not perfect, but it was usable, I think. Some nice colors there. Very important for me was the discovery of this little tree. Not only the shape of the tree that's interesting, but I also love the location. On the edge of a hill, mountains in the background, some smaller trees close to it, and then towards the north, the mountain with the cliffs, maybe for an afternoon shoot. But it's definitely going to need either low cloud like we get here, or alternatively some fog to give some atmosphere and separation. And then if the sun cooperates, we might actually get a portfolio shot here. But at least it's another dot on my map of places to get back to. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me today, being out in nature. I also just want to show you the area as well. That's why you see quite a few drone shots, not just the specific photos, so you can see why I love this area so much. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up. That helps with the algorithms. And subscribe if you want to see more videos in the future. I'm planning on heading into the mountains at some point, and then depending on travel restrictions or the COVID situation, travel times, I want to head towards the coast and shoot a bit in the Knysna forest and also the coastline. But at the moment we can't leave early in the morning. We're not allowed to get back late at night. Plus you're not allowed to go on the beaches, so there's no chances of any seascapes. Hopefully in the future that'll change. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for being here. If you have any questions or things you want me to explain, or maybe areas you want me to shoot, please ask below in the comments. I'll be quite happy to help where I can. Have a nice day and see you in the next video. Cheers!